So, from what I've gathered, this book really demotes thievery and lust and idolatry and adultery, and it speaks against unfaithfulness to your spouse, your family, to your God. It speaks of deplorable acts like sexual deviancy, doing things that are not natural with your body in a sexual perverted manner. It talks about excessive alcoholism, drinking, or drugs, pharmacia, pharmaceuticals, ones that are used for mind-altering, hallucinogenic purposes, to experience some kind of connection with spiritual entities, because they used drugs back in the ancient times to become more attuned to the spiritual world. But yeah, they call it sorcery. They called it sorcery, actually. Sorcery. They use drugs for some of their hypnotic states of consciousness. That's the only way they could really be in harmony with the so-called gods. So, yeah, but this Bible speaks against what is unnatural when it comes to, marriage partners and partners for, love. They talk about certain things or practices and certain beliefs are forbidden. And it's actually an offense to God, to the Creator. Very interesting book. Some people could be offended if they read it. That's why they allegorize it and they spiritualize it and they try to relegate it to something that's different than what it was, than what it was meant to say. But if you just look at it in its plainness, people would be completely shocked if they knew what was in these pages, because it wouldn't condone a lot of people's lifestyles. They would start to feel guilty, and they'd either gnash their teeth and be angry and hostile towards the truth, or they would repent and humble themselves before God. But that's not easy for the human human flesh and human consciousness and will. We don't like to submit willfully to our Creator. And part of that might be natural, but part of it might be supernatural. There are spiritual beings, according to what's written in this book, that influence the minds of human beings, and he influences their spiritual. He influences their bodies. He influences their minds, and he influences their souls to say things, to do things, to think things that are inappropriate according to God's standards. God's standards of purity and wholeness and wellness and pure and goodness. So we have a sinful nature that was introduced thousands of years ago. Apparently, we were created with a perfect nature. We had no problems in those areas I just mentioned, but it was lost. Somehow there was corruption in the very thousands of years ago in the human gene pool, and now we all the descendants of the original peoples have to suffer because of what our ancient ancestors did. That gave birth to their children, and so forth until our modern century, our modern generation. We are their offspring, the corrupt ones.